Welcome to the Industry 4.0 Club's Fireside Chat. The club's purpose is to engage the power of diverse worldwide talent to accelerate the global evolution to Industry 4.0. We accomplish this by hosting and supporting respectful, thoughtful, and interdisciplinary open conversations and creating quality content on wide-ranging Industry 4.0 topics to expand the reach of our community. My name is Mike Ungar, and I am the CEO of the Industry 4.0 Club. I have over 40 years of leadership and experience in manufacturing, with most of that being at Michelin. I'm joined today by my co-host, Mike Yost. Mike is chairman of the club. Mike, would you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Mike. Hello, everybody. My name is Mike Yost. I'm the volunteer chairman of the Industry 4.0 Club and Mike's co-host on these events. I've been in industry for about 35 years and the last 15 on the industrial nonprofit side. So really excited to be here with everybody today and to talk with our guest. And today we have the pleasure of being joined by Tim Stuart, who's the founder and president of Visual Decisions, Inc. Tim's going to be leading a workshop at the MD&M East event in New York City on May 20th. And the title of his workshop is Diving Deeper into Lean and Smart Manufacturing Synergies. He's going to be leading the workshop along with Conrad Leva, who is the Vice President of Ecosystem and Workforce Development at Sesame. And we encourage everybody to come see them both and join this workshop. A little bit of background on Tim. He is the founder and the president of Visual Decisions. He's been working with companies across industries for the past 25 years to help them optimize manufacturing and solve problems in their operations using a combination of Lean, Six Sigma, and smart manufacturing or digital technologies. Tim's been at the forefront of solving challenges for companies by helping them apply new digital capabilities and practices to fundamentally improve their overall business. The methodology and approach that he and his team have developed have helped companies drive results such as 50% reduction in scrap, 25% improvement in throughput, and industries, a variety of industries such as automotive and industrial, consumer packaged goods, food and beverage, and life sciences. So we welcome Tim here to the show.
Thank you. So Tim, you've been involved, you've been a Lean practitioner for quite some time. And I know we started talking about Lean back in the 80s. We weren't talking about Industry 4.0 and smart manufacturing. So when was the first time when did you begin to realize that Lean and smart manufacturing actually had synergies together?
In the early to mid 2000s, I started working with a company called Informants back at that point that collected information from the shop floor, looking at whether machines were running or not running, how many pieces were being produced. And I really started to look at how that information could be combined with Lean practices. And so all the way back in 2005, I started combining how you run Kaizen events with the information coming from that. How do you set up your visual controls on the shop floor, paste boards and things like that, to incorporate that information and automate those processes to reduce waste. So pretty much 20 years now, I've been working on blending those things together.
When you mentioned, Lean's always relied on good data, right, in order to be effective. The word automation, I heard you say the word automation. How'd you do that to begin with? I mean, that seems like, we used to collect data by hand even into the mid 2000s because it engaged the team. When did you think about, when does automation really come to bear on this from your experience? Or when did it start?
So it started, all the way back then. And if you think about, writing things down on a piece of paper, whether it's tick sheets or, anything else, you end up with, kind of a lack of context to that data that's being collected. Ticks on a piece of paper only have the context of whatever box they're going into. and going over and writing numbers on a pasteboard or any other display out on the shop floor. It's valuable information. It's valuable activity to get that person involved in the process, but it's fundamentally waste to have that person walk away from the process. Is excess motion to have them enter that onto a whiteboard, walk back to their process, have somebody else come in, re-enter that information into an Excel spreadsheet at the end of the shift, have somebody take that Excel spreadsheet, enter that in someplace else, and so forth. The whole process is very wasteful. And so being able to automate the mundane aspects of that is something that I started looking at all the way back then, and have the people still be involved in the process, but really shift their focus from manually collecting that information to how to utilize that information to actually make the process better. And so I still wanted that involvement. I still wanted people's fingerprints on that process, but I wanted to shift their focus away from doing the drudgery and into utilizing their brain to make the process improve.
You guys are bumming me out a little bit because you're talking about all the way back in 2005, and that seems like only yesterday to me. But so I know the term MES, Manufacturing Execution Systems, was coined in the mid-1980s. So we've obviously been talking about this kind of stuff for a long time. But I know we've also been having challenges at accepting that there are potentially two different worlds. There's a lean world, there's a digital world, and how do those come together? So I'm wondering, Tim, what happens to lean when you integrate the digital tools? Do you change lean, or do they work in synergy? What's your experience?
The principles of lean stay exactly the same. You're still trying to identify and reduce waste. You're still trying to reduce non-value add time throughout the process. All of those things that you try to do with lean traditionally, you still try to do. You just do it with better information. And so that's the key is lean, as Mike said earlier, has always been about data and utilizing data effectively to improve the process. Now you just have that much more data available to you, and you just need to think through with intention how you collect that information, how you format it and present it to people so that they can use that effectively.
I did hear a manufacturing leader say one time that we could do lean without the digital tools, but we can make the results stick longer by having the digital tools in place. So do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I talk about process entropy in manufacturing, where there's a natural tendency towards disorder in every complex system. And you continuously have to put energy into the process in order to just maintain where you are today. And so one of the complaints that I've heard most often from continuous improvement leaders is that they'll have their team go in, they'll do a Kaizen event, things will look great, good improvements, great payback on it. That team will, congratulate the workers, and they'll move on to another project in another part of the plant or in a different site. And within a couple of months, the progress that they made in that has completely backslid. Damn. And so it could be a lack of discipline. It could be that they didn't identify the true root cause. It could be that there's new products going across that line now. It could be some other root cause has popped up, but there's nothing there to notify people that, hey, this performance has slid. And so what the digital tools can do is keep that light shining on the process and alert people when you start to see that entropy take place.
That makes a lot of sense. Way back when, before we got too much into smart manufacturing, lean experts used to talk about the importance of tactile engagement, right? Mm-hmm. And we know from studies in the brain that when you write, it engages a different part of the brain than when you type digitally or work digitally. So what do you say to lean experts who say, hey, I'm afraid of losing this tactile engagement by going digital?
I say to them that there are other ways to engage different parts of the brain other than just writing something down. Writing something down helps you remember things better. So if you write something, you say something, and et cetera, you read something, it does help you remember that better. But does that really help you understand better is, I think, a different question. And so to me, as I said earlier, one of the key focuses that I have is I still want, those workers spending the same amount of time that they otherwise would doing that data collection and so forth, writing the numbers down, walking to the whiteboard and writing things over there and so forth. But what I want them to focus on is, how do you interpret that information? How do you utilize that information to do something? And I think that process of not only capturing the information, but actually using it makes them learn that even better and at a more deep level than simply capturing the information in the first place.
So I'm wondering, Tim, do you have any perspective to say whether that advice, that approach you just outlined, like, does that resonate with, do you find that the people you said, hey, this is going to work, there's value here, that they find that to be true? And then the workers themselves who are behaving the way you just outlined, does it does it work for them?
There's a few different aspects of that. So when I tell that to people, sometimes they believe me and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're just very strongly of the belief that, no, I need that person to actually write that down, to have those fingerprints on the process, that tactile response and so forth. When they do make the change, I think that the leadership sees the results of having those people more integrated and more deeply involved in the improvement process, as opposed to just capturing the data. And I think it goes towards Taiichi Ohno's quote, where he said that, the goal of lean is to create, the goal of TPS is to create thinking employees. And just writing information down doesn't really create a thinking employee, but having them utilize that information to improve the process does. And so I think that the last part of your question, in terms of the people that are involved in the process themselves, the operators and so forth, I think that the response has generally been very good from them, because it does give them that added value as a person, than just being an automaton writing numbers down on a piece of paper or something.
Excellent. That makes a lot of sense. I think it's interesting to, like anything else, change is hard. Mm-hmm. And so working with lean experts to try other approaches, right, to help them also see the benefits and try different things and then understand the results compared to their past experiences is really, really important.
And it has worked for them in the past too. And so getting somebody to move away from something that has worked is harder than getting them to move away from something that failed. And, lean has had success in a lot of different places. And these people have had, 20 years of experience doing it in a certain way. And so when you initially approach them with a different way to do it, there's very natural resistance to that.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, Tim, actually, before we go on, I just want to remind everybody, we're talking with Tim Stuart, the president and founder of Visual Decisions, Inc., about his upcoming workshop he's going to have at the MD&M East event on May 20th, and in combination with Sesame, and about the intersection of lean and smart manufacturing. So I'm wondering, Tim, organizational behaviors, right? Like, you just talked about things that are working, and now we're going to try something new. Do you position this conversation as, hey, this is something new, or this is something sort of an evolution based on, protecting the principles of what already work? right? How new is it versus sort of an evolution?
I think that's a case by case basis, to be honest with you. And I hate to give that answer, but it's very consultancy. But it is the truth, because it depends partially on what are the systems that you're trying to put in place. What enhancements are you trying to make to lean? How are you utilizing the information that you're collecting and so forth, as to how big of a change that would be. But in general, I think that it's safe to say it's more of an evolution than it is a revolution, because again, the principles all stay the same, the goals stay the same, you're still trying to do the same things, you're still using the same lean practices and so forth. You're just changing the tools that you're using to actually make that happen.
And do you have, I'm sorry, Mike, just one other line of questioning on that front. So we have the people side of it, you have the organizational side of it. Do you see, especially when we get into conversations about digital, right? This can come into an organization from any direction, right? Business leaders could say, hey, guess what? We're going to transform, right? You could have vendors coming in and saying, we have AI and it solves all your problems. You have continuous improvement people who are solving problems as you've outlined. Do you see either a best practice, or do you see things are being successful being led by a technology organization more so than continuous improvement? Or do you find that continuous improvement teams tend to lead these types of discussions about evolving to digital? Or is there no way to define where who you typically see leading this charge?
Yeah, I think it depends on the individuals involved, and it depends on who the real leaders are within the organization. Maybe not who's in a leadership position, but who the actual leaders are, as to how this change comes about. But I think that it can work from either side, but it has to be a collaborative effort where all of the people are participating. Because if anybody feels excluded in that process, then they're not going to have their heart in it, and it's not going to work nearly as well.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think I've seen, at the end of the day, it takes a leader. Okay, and a leader can come from a technology group or from a continuous improvement group, but it's a leader that begins to make this change and pull in the partners, as you mentioned, the other folks that need to be involved in it. It can come from really any part of the organization. It's about leadership at that point, I think. So can you, just to kind of focus a bit on the workshop, can you give us an example, maybe or one example of a digital approach to lean that you're going to talk about?
Sure. We have a section on maintenance and how maintenance has been done traditionally, whether it's reactive or preventive, the approach, and what are some more modern maintenance strategies that take advantage of the rich data that can be collected from the machines to move towards not just predictive maintenance, but condition-based and other forms of maintenance that really help to keep that equipment running when it does go down, get it back up and running much faster, and how to kind of optimize the load on the maintenance department so that you can really get things running as smoothly as possible.
I have to smile because it's a great example. So I'm going to date myself. So I remember having the operators I worked with, we had heat dots we put onto the motors.
Mm-hmm.
And they were required to go by and look at them at the start of the shift and record whether they were red or green.
Yeah.
That's to see whether the motor was turning hot and therefore beginning to have a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting to talk about that. Obviously, today we have sensors that will capture that data. And so instead of having the operators walk around and capture write down whether it was red or green and give us a check, well, first of all, I hope they would do it. And then secondly, give us that feedback. Now we can sort of continuously monitor that with digital sensors and use that time that the operator was spending looking at the dot, if you will, and other higher value added sort of activities to to manage the process. So it's a really good example of what you're talking about.
And, just how do you facilitate autonomous maintenance? Companies have long wanted the operators to take more ownership of the equipment and push some of those routine maintenance tasks to the operators and so forth. But how do you really support the operators in doing that? How are they supposed to know when they come in at the beginning of the shift, what needs to be done, how it should be done? If that's the regular operator and they're doing things every day, they probably know those things. But if somebody's standing in for that operator because they're on vacation, or you're rotating job between different tasks and so forth, you may have an operator that doesn't know those things. And especially in those kinds of a situation, not only how do you provide the digital work instructions for the operators to do those things, but how do you provide something to capture what the results were, as you were talking about, so that that task actually got done and what the result was. And, then how do you prompt them with what are those tasks that should be completed on that day and so forth?
Yeah.
And so having those digital means in place can facilitate all of that much, much more easily than you had with paper in the past. And that's just a really clear example of how going digital can facilitate some of those lean things that we've been trying to do for years, but have had difficulty doing before.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I guess full disclosure for everybody, I know Tim very well and work with him quite regularly. I know his workshop is going to be fantastic. I truly trust him on both the digital front and the lean front, and bringing the world together. And so I'm curious, Tim, for those out there that are either already signed up or thinking about signing up, what do you hope the participants would take away from your workshop?
What I hope they take away is that a lot of these common lean activities that we've been doing for years in very manual ways and so forth can either be automated or can be enhanced with a lot of this information that we're collecting. Just like the example that we just went through with autonomous maintenance, so many of the different things that we do within lean can be of great can be benefited by having those digital capabilities in place. And so what we're hoping is that they gain an understanding of what those possibilities are, and then also see a way that they can start to plan out what they should do with some level of intention about what are the things that they should prioritize and so forth.
Yeah, that's excellent. I'm sure it'll be a really, really good workshop. Well, we've been talking to, as Mike mentioned, to Tim Stuart, and Tim and Conrad Leva. Conrad works with Sesame, about their upcoming workshop at MD&M East on the 20th of May. As we get ready to wrap up this conversation, and maybe I'll start with you, Mike. Do you have any final thoughts for our audience?
Yeah. First of all, if you have the chance, I would strongly encourage you to attend the workshop, but also follow Sesame, follow Tim. A lot of domain expertise and knowledge of the earlier thread of the conversation we had about that this digital lean, or this intersection of smart manufacturing and digital capabilities with lean, is really an evolution, and it's may not feel that way. But I think I wrote down, Tim was talking about, the work of lean to make thinking employees. And I think the digital tools are a way to help give information for people, so they have, the data, the information that they need to think for themselves and move more effectively, I think is really positive and really powerful. So I wish you luck, Tim. It's going to be a great event.
Thanks.
Tim, how about your final thoughts for our audience about this upcoming workshop?
Yeah, we've talked about the benefits of adding digital to lean. I don't want to overlook the benefits of adding lean to digital. We used an analogy a lot about a Fitbit, where, wearing a Fitbit doesn't make you thin, and I'm living proof of that. And the same thing is true with these machines. Putting a machine monitoring system on a machine doesn't automatically make that machine run better. You still have to use that information to go and make changes to the process and so forth. And having those digital capabilities is great. It's very beneficial, but you still need that process improvement capability to tie into that, to utilize that information to actually make the process better. So while I think that adding digital to lean is very beneficial, I think that adding the lean and continuous improvement capabilities to digital is actually critical to the success of those initiatives.
That's great.
Great
No,
point.
thank you so much. Appreciate it. So I want to thank Tim, Mike, and Tim for joining us for this preview of the workshop that Tim and Conrad Laver are going to be leading at MD&M East on the 20th of May at the Javits Center in New York City. We hope you're going to decide to join them. And if you haven't already and would like to check out, register for this workshop, but also check out the overall event, here's the website to go to. Click on the Education and Events tab and register for the Lean Manufacturing Workshop and really other activities that will be happening in New York City, May 20 to 22. So the Industry 4.0 Club would like to encourage you to take action with the deployment of Industry 4.0. Read an article, attend a workshop, or develop a smart manufacturing roadmap for your plant or company, or challenge your organization to move forward in the deployment of Industry 4.0. We'd like to know what you decide or the action that you take, so please drop a note to us on our website at www.industry40club.com or on our LinkedIn page. We'd love to hear from you. In addition, we have conversations like this routinely on LinkedIn as well as YouTube. And if you'd like to join us on a conversation, again, let us know on our website or our LinkedIn page. So thank you, Tim. Thank you, Mike. It's been a pleasure. And we look forward to seeing you guys in New York.
Excellent. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks
everyone.
Thank you.